Hello there, my name is Oliver, and as a part of my matura paper, I've decided to make an educational video on a quite unknown topic, esports. My beautiful hand and of course the drawings will serve you as a visual representation, so it will be easier to follow along. Now enjoy! What are esports? You may have heard this word but might not be familiar with it. It's short for electronic sports. Now you might ask,
Oliver, what do electronics have to do with sport? Don't sports usually involve some form of physical activity?
not necessarily, as chess is officially recognized as a sport by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and yet it doesn't really require any strenuous physical activity. But on the other hand, mental fitness is key. Sports are generally defined by physical exertion according to the Oxford English Dictionary, but the word sport itself comes from disport, which is late Middle English and means enjoyment. This is further supported by Professor Dr. Klaus Tiedemann's definition of sport. He used to lecture in sports science at the University of Hamburg, in case you were wondering. So his definition sounds like this. Sport is a cultural activity field in which people voluntarily enter into a relationship with other people to compare their respective abilities and accomplishments in skilled motion, according to self-established or inherited rules and basing on the socially accepted ethical values. Now you can see in this definition, physical exertion is never mentioned. Esports is at its core video gaming on a competitive level. Teams or single players compete against each other in one of the many games with pro scenes. This can range from playing on consoles, such as PlayStation, or playing on a computer. The coverage and viewership is comparable to other professional sports, as there is broadcasting, there are large stadiums and millions of fans all over the world watching games unfold live. There are professionally coached teams and large companies that own and financially support said teams. And one of the most interesting factors is that the prize pools of the largest esports events have risen astronomically compared to prize pools of more traditional sporting events. A good example of this phenomenon is the International 8. Its prize pool reached over $25 million. In case you're wondering, Dota 2 is one of the largest games in esports, and it is a real-time strategy game in which teams of 5 players compete against each other. And the International is basically just the World Cup of this game. I even brought you some pictures, so you can imagine what the final of the International looks like. On the stage you can spot the teams inside of cabins. This is to isolate them from noise. All of the action happens on the large screens, making it somewhat of a public viewing with some extras. Where did esports start and where did they come from? The first recorded event was in October 1972 in the Stanford University of the United States of America. The game the students played was Space War, a very simple yet compelling game. The students competed for the grand prize, drumroll please, of an annual subscription to the Rolling Stone magazine.
Crazy.
From there, games got more complex following the advancement of technology. A lot of development happened unaware to us in Asia when StarCraft was released in 1998. StarCraft is also a real-time strategy game that at one point in time had the largest following. To further promote games, events and tournaments were held by game developers, which led to a larger interest in high-level gaming. Skipping forward to the 2010s, when esports have been globally recognized by companies and other large enterprises, and the career of an esports athlete is a thing, we can see it is all thanks to those early developments and of course due to improvements in technology. The only reason why it is so much more relevant now, and the reason why I'm trying to inform you on this topic, is because of how large the scene has become, and yet how unknown it has stayed to several generations. To show how large the interest is, take these numbers into consideration. The whole esports branch is estimated to be worth over $1.5 billion. In 2017, $112 million were given away in form of prize money, which is half the prize pool of the European Championship in football, or almost 3 times as much as the Wimbledon prize money. In the World's 2017, the World Cup of League of Legends, which is also a real-time strategy game in which teams of 5 compete against each other, the final was spectated by 45,000 fans in the Olympia Stadium in Peking, which almost matches the average attendance of the FIFA World Cup in 2018, and it was also watched online on various streaming platforms by over 40 million further fans. The total amount of esports fans watching the events online per year has risen to 380 million and is estimated to reach 600 million in the next few years. With this much money involved, I'm still surprised at the amount of people who haven't heard of esports. A theory of mine is that those who did not ride on the train of technology and follow its advancement, especially in the field of gaming, have missed out on this whole esports aspect and were solely attracted to more traditional sports. There are even talks of incorporating esports into the Olympic Games, in some form or another. maybe as early as Paris 2024, or more likely in Los Angeles 2028. The only aspect hindering it at the moment is that the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee in case you forgot, you're welcome, doesn't condone the virtual violence of these more popular games. A day in the life of a professional gamer. This daily routine stems from Tristan, Power of Evil, which is not his last name. His last name is Schrage, in case you were wondering. Power of Evil is just his gamer tag, or what his fans call him. He's a professional esports athlete who plays the earlier mentioned League of Legends. The training is separated into 2 seasons, just like other professional sport. During the off-season, the athlete spends less time playing the game and can enjoy life. He says that he plays 1 to 6 hours per day depending on his mood. In the high season, he spends up to 6 hours playing with his teammates and then has to work on his own individual skill at home, summing up to be 9 to 11 hours per day. The training takes place between 1 PM and 8 PM, meaning Tristan and his teammates have to individually practice before or after training. With so much time spent on the game, there isn't a lot left to pursue other hobbies. That is why most of them usually visit fitness centers, as they are mostly open 24/7. During the training, 1 day per week is spent away from the computer, to give Tristan and the others time to spend with real life friends. Power of Evil used to live in a designated gaming house with staff and everything. The 5-man team, the team manager, the chef coach, the strategy coach, and the cook all lived together. Each one of them had their designated duty in order to train the athletes as effectively as possible, and in order for them to be best prepared for the upcoming tournaments. Nowadays, almost all professionally coached teams live in so-called gaming houses. This helps build up the team spirit and lets the coaches control more of the athlete's daily life. How can you become a pro? How can I become a pro? Doesn't everybody want to be a pro? Esports is still pretty new. That is why there are no special schools in which you can train to become a professional athlete. The easiest way to becoming a pro? Be good at the game. This may sound too simple, but it's true. The top teams pay careful attention to the ranking of players in games. Basically, all games with a competitive scene have an in-game ranking system determining their ranks according to their wins and their losses. If you can shine in the ranking, there is a good chance you will be called upon and might have a bright future ahead of you. Another way to be spotted is to participate in amateur tournaments. The stakes aren't very high, but scouts may be present and want to know more of you and your convincing performance. Becoming an actual pro may be easier in esports, but the problem is, there isn't a lot of job security. This forces many athletes to set their priorities and maybe finish school before moving on in their career, creating somewhat of a safety net. Now for you, a conclusion to sum up the situation of esports up a little bit. Esports have not been recognized as a sport all around the globe, only in selected countries. They are heavily discussed to be seen in the Olympic Games, earliest 2024 in Paris. If you can't wait, I'm the bringer of good news, as esports are scheduled to take part in the Asian Games 2022 in China. These should not be confused with the Olympic Games in 2024. The motivation behind this video was to try to bring this whole esports thing a little closer to you, and maybe not let you be overwhelmed by it if it does manage to someday be covered by mainstream media. Or it was just to help you brag next time you meet up with your friends. I hope I was able to accomplish this. Thank you for watching, and have a beautiful day.